It started out as Operation Enduring Freedom, right after 9/11.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
And shortly after President Bush's famous moment at Ground Zero in New York City in 2001, he launched an invasion in Afghanistan, going after Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda and the Taliban, the militant group in power in that country. In 2014, President Obama ended that operation, pulling a lot of U.S. troops out. But about 14,000 Americans still remain backing up and training Afghan forces as the fighting continues and the Taliban keeps attacking. That's the broken glass outside of police headquarters in the capital, Kabul, on Wednesday, hit by a suicide bomber.
I was having breakfast in a restaurant when the explosion happened. The glass poured over us, and we rushed into the street.
More than a dozen people were killed, well over 100 wounded. Most of them were civilians. Just last week, 2 more American troops were killed when an Afghan soldier they thought they could trust turned on them in what's called an insider attack. And President Trump wants it all to end.
We're talking, but we've also made a lot of progress. We're reducing it. We've been there for 19 years. We're really serving as policemen. We could win Afghanistan in 2 days or 3 days or 4 days if we wanted, but I'm not looking to kill 10 million people.
So, the U.S. is holding peace talks with the very Taliban we keep fighting. And there's a proposal for the U.S. to withdraw thousands more troops if, and this is a big if, the Taliban agrees to negotiate directly with the Afghan government, something it has refused to do. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the goal is
a diplomatic resolution that permits us to reduce the resources that are located there in country while simultaneously ensuring that Afghanistan never again becomes a platform where a terror can strike the United States of America.
And the leader of NATO, Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, said Tuesday he's encouraged.
We now see a real chance for peace in Afghanistan. We are closer to a peace deal than ever before.
But some in Congress don't like what's going on, like Republican Michael Waltz, who fought Taliban insurgents as a Green Beret in Afghanistan.
They've promised to keep al-Qaeda and ISIS at bay, and even if you believe that promise, which I don't, how do they have the capability that thousands of U.S. troops and a 300,000-man Afghan army have struggled to do over the last 18 years?
And we talked to someone else who was wary.
I'm not against the U.S. peace talk per se, but I am against the U.S. talking to the Taliban.
Akram Gizabi grew up in Afghanistan and is now an activist speaking out against the Taliban as chairman of the World Hazara Council.
I'm amazed that the United States sits with the Taliban and not with Pakistan, because the strings are pulled from Islamabad. In a nutshell, Taliban are the creation of Pakistan. It is not an Afghan entity. It was born in Pakistan, trained in Pakistan, armed, supported in Pakistan, and brought to power in Kabul by Pakistan. Had it not been for the logistical support, for the military support, for the advisory that Pakistan provided, the Taliban would never be able to conquer Afghanistan or build a government there. They do not accept the constitution of the country, saying that it was made or it was written under the direction or under the influence of a foreign power. So nothing has changed with this group.
And that's a big reason why Akram Gizabi is so opposed to the U.S. sitting down across the table from Taliban negotiators holding peace talks.
One, that the United States gives legitimacy to a terrorist group. It's a well-known terrorist group. Secondly, the Taliban have not changed a bit. They are as misogynist as they were before. They are as ruthless as they were before. They are as extremist as they were before. And they do not want the women to work or study the minorities, religious minorities, such as the Hazaras, the Hindus, the Jews, and the Ismaili people, they consider them to be infidel, and they do not consider them to be Muslim.
Okay, so go back to the way it was before 9/11, when the Taliban ruled Afghanistan. What did the Taliban do?
First of all, they suppressed the women. They did not want them to go out of the house, to work, to study, to practice, even doctors, medical doctors. They did not. Even when they let them go out of the house, the women, I mean, they had to be accompanied by a male relative. Otherwise, they would be beaten on the street. And even then, she should not, or they should not wear outfits that would be revealing, outfits that would make noise. Believe it or not, this is not a joke. To incite men, the criteria for being a Muslim was to pray 5 times, even if you did not believe in their sect of religion, and the length of your beard. Believe it or not, if they could catch you on the street with the shorter beard, you'll be beaten like an animal.
Wow.
So the schools were closed. TVs were not there. They made a spectacle of punishing people. The stadium, the only stadium that Kabul had, was a scene for executions. They would cut people's hands and feet in that openly. They invite public to watch. They would behead people. They would shoot women in there or flog them in there. And at some points, they forced people to participate even.
Your ethnic group within Afghanistan, the Hazaras, they were not welcomed by the Taliban either, right?
And we were slaughtered back and forth, especially there was a huge massacre in northern Afghanistan, which is widely reported by, among others, Human Rights Watch, when they took over the northern province of Balkh. And they massacred my people in another place in central Afghanistan and north of Kabul. So back and forth, wherever we were targeted because of our ethnicity. And even now, central Afghanistan is peaceful. But they every once in a while we are talking, they are attacking our villages, they are attacking our districts, and they kill these people for no reason.
If we were to withdraw more forces and enter into a peace agreement, what about the Afghan forces in the country? Could they not still win?
No, they could not, because first of all, again, it's not the Taliban themselves. They are backed by Pakistan. Unfortunately, as far as we are concerned, there is no guarantee that the Taliban will kick out the Al Qaeda or other extremist group, or they will not harbor them, because Al Qaeda, believe it or not, has pledged allegiance to the leader of the Taliban.
How would you eradicate the Taliban from here? If we don't have peace talks with them, what does the U.S. do with the Afghan forces? How do you stop the Taliban for good?
At the moment, unfortunately, the U.S. has allowed the Taliban to prosper for the last 20 years because the U.S. did not go to the source. The U.S. should have pressured Pakistan, or should have gone to Pakistan, or I don't know, but they should have put the emphasis on Pakistani support and Pakistani help, and not the Taliban.
But we're not going to attack Pakistan. So
no, you're not.
So there is no solution then? It just has to continue on and on?
The solution, there is a solution, in a long-term solution, that the U.S. at the moment will not take all its forces out of Afghanistan, and should not show all the cards on the table. When you play cards, you don't reveal your cards. The U.S. says, at the moment, for example, that by election 2020, we should be out of Afghanistan. The Taliban can wait 2 decades if they want to. All the time is in their hand. When you say, like Obama made the same mistake, he said that we will
end the war,
get out.
Yeah.
Yes, end of my second term, and the Taliban waited. And there is no better hope for an enemy to know that their enemy is on the way out, or is fatigued, or is tired, and they will leave Afghanistan.
Akram Gizabi, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure.